Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you're watching live, I apologize for tech difficulties that um, ha- made us start late. Mercury wasn't supposed to go retrograde until Friday, but here we are. We had lots of trouble. And it wasn't until both of us rebooted our computers and came in again. Um, and Erica had to join on her cell phone, so we have no idea what was going on, but we're here now. And so thank you for joining us. And I'm going to, in here, I'm going to have to pull up her bio. I had it there, but when I rebooted my computer, then I had to close it out. And so it'll take me just a second to find it again. Okay. And here we go. Erica Sawyer is a licensed mental health counselor and ATR. I'm not sure exactly what ATR, so you can explain that to me later. She's a mentor, a consultant, and here we go, registered art therapist for the ATR, who works with highly sensitive people and empaths, helping them to transform chronic overwhelm and anxiety into a life of relaxed ease and calm. With 13 years in the mental health field, she is an expert in helping our clients navigate challenging relationships and learning how to stay grounded despite the moods and emotions or computer problems of people around them. By combining both practical tools and strategies in tandem with the deep inner work of clearing subconscious patterns, Erica guides her highly sensitive people and empath clients to create more peaceful and harmonious lives and relationships. And she has her a link to her Facebook profile. It's down below. And if you go to her website or directly from the link below, you can get a paper that she put together, 11 signs that you might be a highly sensitive person or empath. And her website is there where you can also go and see more of her work and contact her from. And so, Erica, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, me too. And thanks for extending the invitation. I'm happy to
Oh,
chat.
you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. You're from the posts of yours that I'd seen. Your work looked interesting, and you seemed like a real good person to have on.
Oh,
So,
I appreciate it.
so there, I invited you, and so anyway, please, I really love to hear people's stories. So, if you could tell us how you got into your work or why you chose the field you did, and share however much of it you want to share.
Sure. Oh, let's see what comes to mind. So, a real guiding force and mentor in my life planted the seed when I was about 12 years old. My stepmother, who is a counselor and has been decades, I don't know. She had said that I would make a good counselor. So that always sort of stuck with me. It wasn't until my, let's see, late 20s, early 30s that I took that seriously, um, and looked into different programs. Anyhow, fell into the art therapy counseling because I love art, have always been considered myself an artist, believe in the creative process and the healing power of art. Um, and that has led me to different um, different paths on my journey here. So a lot of my earlier work was working with older adults in different long-term care facilities, those with dementia or severe and persistent mental illness, and then also in community mental health with a variety of um, different populations and issues and ages. And so I, yeah. And then I realized as a highly sensitive person and empath, just being deeply affected by my environment and those I'm surrounded with, it was really time to sort of put some boundaries in place to take care of myself and make sure I wouldn't burn out. And that led to dropping to part time, trying to sort of change who I worked with, how I did my work, then in 2017, I started my private practice to really honor, um, you know, what I call a sane workload for a highly sensitive therapist. Um, we, yeah, and the hours as well, like what was in alignment with when I was operating at my best, and where could I make sure I had enough time to recharge so I could be at my best for my next client. So a lot of experimenting, trial and error, and being in community with other highly sensitive therapists was extremely normalizing and validating. And now I'm been focused on really sort of shifting a bit out of the clinical work as a therapist and more into my mentorship and consulting, and focusing on the programs that I'm, it's just near and dear to my heart to. So I work one-on-one, whether it's my 12-week program or my just one-to-one, like energy sanctuary session, or my consultations. It's all one-to-one because that's where I really do my best work, and I can really like zero in on the person, um, and get a sense of what they need very quickly and help them through their journey.
Yeah. Well, very good. There's having trouble with my lamp over here now. It's just a day of weirdness.
Yes.
So, so I'm sorry to follow your comments with that, but yes, it's so important, I think, that we get to the place where we can know ourselves well enough to know what we need to serve others better, and and not just what we need, but what we desire, and
Right.
what works for us. So so that it works better for others because we're doing what works for us. And so um, I guess I would like to start then to with your work with highly sensitive people and empaths. Could you explain to each of us, or to all of us here, what they are, what those terms mean, and how they're related or how they're different?
Yeah. So highly sensitive people, that's the term that Dr. Elaine Aron coined in the 90s when she was doing research, um, in this area. Well, her research was actually around introversion, and then it led her to understanding that there's something a little different here, which, and she discovered that this is a temperament trait, or you might call it a personality trait, um, among, at the time it was roughly 15 to 20% of the population. More recent research is showing 20 to 30% of the population. Um, and it speaks to having a highly sensitive nervous system, and there are real brain differences as well. A more activated amygdala, mirror neuron system. So we're just wired for, you know, that deep empathy, and attunement with others. Her so and empath is another term I've explored because that speaks to me very much as well. Um, and this is so there's a lot of debate out there. And for now, until I receive enough information that might change my mind, because I'm always open to more, deeper understandings and different ways of looking at things. For now, I'm among the most like commonly held conclusion is that empaths are like a smaller subset of HSPs, of the highly sensitive population. And this just means that there is a um, so so many highly sensitive people might have uh, heightened sensory experiences, more finely tuned, um, essentially the five senses. Whereas empaths take that to another level, and they will actually feel like and absorb the emotions or moods of others as if they were their own. And so it can be a lot harder to sort of tease out, whoa, what's mine and what's someone else's, and can be extremely confusing for many empaths who have no idea that they are even are, or that that's what's happening. They just maybe walk into a room and all of a sudden feel drained and think something's going on with them, and it's not necessarily the energy that they're picking up from elsewhere. Um, so it comes down to, well, I won't go into all of that, but um, so I don't know. Let's see, to be a little clearer with high sensitivity, uh, one way to sort of look at the four main characteristics would be, um, I like how Elaine Aron uses the acronym DOES, DOES. So she talks about these four areas that will sort of how this presents as depth of processing, over arousability due to overstimulation of the nervous system, um, emotional reactivity or sensitivity, um, empathy, and then sensory sensitivity. So that's for, which is like even sensing subtle stimuli. Um, that might be just sort of oh, and I will say this. Thing interesting to know is, so she found that not only does this apply to about 20% of the population in humans, but it in over 100 different animal species that she researched as well. The same percentage it has been identified as being affected by this genetic temperament trait. And she believes it's tied to survival. You know, it's a survival mechanism of the species. It really benefits the tribe or whatever for those that are picking up on, you know, the subtle, the things that maybe not most of those are. I don't know if that's very clear, but that's my.
Okay. Um, so are when you're saying heightened senses, just the five senses in general, or are you including that a lot of empaths or most of the 20, 30% or whatever have like clairvoyance or clairaudience, or I think they go into 7 or 8 different clair senses,
Yeah.
right? So you're including those
So
with
I'm
it?
including those, especially when we're looking at empaths, since that's sort of where, I mean, I don't, not to say that highly sensitive people can't experience, I think actually we are pretty like adept at, whether you're an HSP or an empath, sort of the senses that go beyond the five normal senses, or the five, you know, that we've identified here. Um, so
Well, I can. Go ahead. Go ahead.
because, you know, so no, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. The well, I was just like, I've never really considered myself an empath. I think a lot of other people would have. Like when I was growing up, looking back, I think, yeah, probably my family thought I was that way because I just saw I have a almost 4-year-old granddaughter, and I was just realizing she is any little thing she's just so picky about. And before I had just kind of got irritated with it, but it dawned on me the other day. It was like, oh, she's like me. So now I can understand her better and work with that a little more to help her. But
Yeah.
so but I can really relate to, I think, a lot of, we heard empaths a lot during the COVID-19 lockdown times, or just in general, people were really became extra sensitive to, because you could pick up the vibes in the air around you from other people. Or I remember going to a Walmart during June of 2020, and it was like everybody was scared. It was just fear that I felt all over. And I went back in about 6 weeks, end of July or something, And I left and I was so angry. I had just absorbed everything because I wasn't angry by myself about it. And same way last night, there's another big topic going around. Um, a lot of places people are talking about on the internet and things, and a lot of people are disagreeing and they're very heated about it. And it was like, my husband had it playing for quite a while yesterday afternoon, and it was finally like by evening it was like it was all I could take. It was just yuck. It was just, and it was and I realized, oh, I've just absorbed everybody else's, that came through the internet. Came through it. Listening to the internet kind of pulled in all the extra energy from the universe about it into me. Is the way I felt about it. But so I know a lot of people experience things like that.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you brought up an important, in our day and age with all the instant access and the oversaturation of news and energy. Like it's just right there on our phone, at our fingertips, or on our computer. I mean, working from or doing meetings from our computers. And so and I'm still, I mean, this is still a practice for me. It's, the ways that I can tune out all of that energy, because I think anyone, whether you're highly sensitive or not, can be affected by too much inundation. And we just happen to be extra, like, it's not something we can just sort of mentally conceptualize. Oh, that's what's happening, oh, this is so annoying, I'm just going to go to the other room. It actually is like in our body and our energy, and we need to do things to release it, whether that's physically dancing and shaking it out or going outside. I've made it a daily practice to be outside and barefoot, which is a little more difficult in the winter, but with cold feet. But I've heard cotton socks work, so I started doing that. But you still are connecting to the harmonizing frequencies of the electromagnetic energies of the earth, like literally grounding,
Well,
supporting your nervous system.
yes, I use leather-soled moccasins, um, and
That's
then
good.
you might try those in winter. It's a little
I
better.
appreciate the reminder. I mean, that's exactly what I had on my kiddo for the first couple of years, 2-3 years of his life was the moccasins.
So I have a question. Say, like, um, mood swings or mood changes. I would think highly sensitive people would have more mood swings than the normal population. And do empaths have more than highly sensitive people then? Or to me, like, I've realized that so much of it isn't necessarily me, but all the all the planets and stars, right? And wandering stars have so much interaction with each other, and they all have their own energies or personalities, right? You almost say, and they interact together, which interacts with my energy. And so I think a lot of times my mood swings of feeling one way one day and immediately different the next day or
Yeah,
something are really not me. It's I'm noticing I'm just extra sensitive to the changes in the astrological
yeah,
energies. And so I think it helps people. It has helped me to realize, instead of saying, well, why am I like this? Getting frustrated and angry at myself about why, it's realizing, okay, it's the stars changing. And so, okay, then I talk to the new stars that the next day and say, okay, well, help me work with you instead of against you. What can I
yeah.
do, to incorporate those energies, type of thing. And I think it really helps people to
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 have that,
know
yeah,
that that is a big factor.
yeah. Having that awareness is so important. And you even touched on like that self-compassion piece, like, oh, I'm not defective. I'm not broke. I know these aren't your words, but of many of my clients. that there's something wrong with me, that I'm defective. Why is what's wrong with me that I can't just maintain my good mood. And like you said, the Earth's energies. A few years ago, when I actually heard, I read something by, because astrology and all of the astrological signs, it can sound very woo-woo to folks, but when you get down to the science of it, and I'm no expert, I just know like enough to know that there's some really cool things to know. And the way we are literally, like we are all, our beings are so, like we are tied to everything, and our bodies are what, 90 something percent water, which
Well, we're made of
the
light particles, and so our
yeah,
particles extend forever and mix with all the others that are extending forever throughout the universe on all the light waves, right? In the ether.
yeah,
I mean, it's a scientific fact, yeah. Or
right.
at least
So we're all,
they're being able to prove it more and more.
yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's one thing to keep in mind. Like it's multifaceted. It's not just where you are, who you're with. It's what's happening planetarily, uh, in the cosmos, and if we sort of bring it back into the personal, like hormonally, like perimenopause is real, so sometimes, and that's happening through different stages of development, not just perimenopause, which I happen to be in, but so giving ourselves grace, and just remembering that there's multiple things going on, and what is recognizing, oh, when I'm feeling a little off, what can I do to bring myself back? And I feel like there was something else I was gonna say in response to that, but if it comes back, I'll mention it.
Okay, yeah. So, and I had signed up and got your paper of 11 things, and there was a term on there that I hadn't heard before, and maybe you could address how that affects us with the energies, social hangovers.
Oh yeah.
So I can see how that might affect in just what we were talking about. So
I don't remember where I heard that several years ago, but it instantly resonated. I said, oh, that describes perfectly what I experience after too much, what I say, peopling, after, um, and not so much, I wouldn't say that happens a lot to me anymore, because I'm much more, just more conscientious about setting myself up to not to experience that. But I will at times knowingly go, and if there's a party I really want to attend, there's going to be a lot of people I want to see there, or whether it's family or loved ones, or even just an event that's going to take, that's maybe going to be longer than 2 hours, or I'm going to be there for 3 or 4. I know my body and my mind, and just how much input and stimulation I can take in. Um, and so I will give myself the next day, or I'll try to give myself recovery time, even after traveling to and from, because you're around
oh
crowds of
yeah.
people. And um, I will purposely not have a work day after I'm coming back from a travel day, because we just need that extra time to recoup and recharge.
Yeah, I know I do. the, the older I
Yeah.
get, the longer I need.
Yeah.
So, um, and you had also mentioned something about the one thing of the empaths or the highly sensitive people is entering the inner world of others and knowing what they're needing or knowing what they're thinking, and how we're able to say something and people will say often, Oh, that's just what I was going to say, or that's what I was thinking, or something. So how do you think empaths then, or the highly sensitive people, are able to do that, to tap
Yeah.
into others? I mean, in some ways it goes to telepathy. But that would be slightly more on purpose, perhaps, than what you're referring to of just.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that in her research that she noted and that Elena Aaron attribute this is common is the heightened intuition, just um, the way our brains are wired to sort of, and some of it is just noticing, tuning in to the micro expressions or the little details, or even this um, she gives an example of like shamans would be considered highly sensitive people, or perhaps the elder and would could warn his tribe of impending flood so they could move to higher ground days before it occurs, or whatever. um, sort of tapping into maybe the collective unconscious, or just sensing, being open to the signs and symbols that the universe is delivering. I really can't speak to um, the mechanism of how. It, um, but I love that question because it makes I want to dig into it.
Hmm.
Um, there was something else you asked here. So just the fact that we do. Oh yeah, entering the world of others. And I think many of us, like, we do that naturally without really even realizing we're doing that. We just think, well, yeah, this. Let me give like just a really basic example. One of the first times that I noticed, or that it was brought to my attention that I did that, I was maybe in my late 20s. I was out on a boat with a bunch of friends. Um, I would notice someone's drink was empty, or that they were uncomfortable in the chair they were sitting in. And, I would be getting them whatever they needed. Oh, do you want to trade cheers with me? Or, oh, are you ready for another beverage? Or this or that. And someone said, oh, Erica, you're like a little mother hen. You just anticipate all our need. Like, you know what we need before we even do. And I just thought, well, it doesn't can't anyone see this? So I think we just do that, whether it's with our kids, our clients, just sensing. I would sense it too. Like, it wouldn't just be what I saw. Like, I could feel, um, I don't know. I could just feel it. So,
Right. Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So are most highly sensitive people then, or the empaths, are they, would they consider themselves, or others consider them, introverts versus extrovert, or does that's like a totally different topic and wouldn't um, play
Well,
in?
so Dr. Aaron's research shows that about 70% are introverts and about 30% are
Hmm.
extroverts.
Okay.
So it's not, um, you aren't necessarily one or the other, but obviously the majority are um, introverted. Um, and she also found that the trait is found about equally among male and female, like half and half with the general population, which I found interesting as well.
Well, really, that is interesting, because I guess just in general, my contact with people, I mean, I have some male clients, but the majority are women. And of course, you could say social media is predominantly women, but whether that's a male, I mean, that might not be just because men aren't sensitive, but just because they're not using social media as much as women, or are using different social media, or maybe there's not as many men that have the type of job where they're free, say working from home, or having their own business and can tie into social media more. So there might be a lot of other reasons why you don't see a lot of the same equal numbers of men. Um,
Yeah, and I think a lot of it actually, at least in our culture, has to do with what is socialization and what is expected and what is okay for. It's not really accepted for men, generally speaking, right, to be sensitive or um, like in those more socially acceptable roles that females are in the caretaking and um, so I mean I get a lot of I would say the male HSPs that come to me in particular are the ones that more often use the words like broken or defective or alien, like it, and this is like these messages and beliefs begin at a very early age and are like ingrained in at a very deep level. I think more than the females that come to me in general. So I think that could be a whole discussion and topic in and of itself. So I really enjoy working with men as well as women, and not all of them. Some come with confidence, but they're still like struggling with relationships or how do I just manage um, all of the input when I'm trying to be out there and being a doer and making my sales or whatever. So I think it comes down to like having some self-acceptance and understanding around what it means and that we don't need to push ourselves beyond our capacity even when the whole world or even our family members are telling us to.
right. Yeah. So, how then, I guess it's kind of, you were kind of explaining then, one of my questions here, how this overwhelming of emotions can keep us stuck in the patterns, in our old patterns. It makes it more difficult to change.
Yeah, so I mean, because of our ability to just feel, all emotions are normal and valid for all people, right? That's what we have them for, as information. um, with but if we're looking at I don't know if this is sort of the normal range of emotions that we might go up and down. For an HSP, it would look like this: like we are feeling everything on a much like bigger, more intense way. And I don't think that's negative or positive. That's just how it is. And so I'm neutral on that. And it's about like not getting swept away with it, but coming back to okay, I can roll with that, and I can come back to grounded or what feels stable and calm for me. Um, I was coming back to what you had asked. I already forgot what it was. Oh, was it around like how to be grounded when you have big emotions? Or, oh, I lost your sound.
No, I
Oh,
have a phone ringing in the background, so I'd muted
okay.
myself in case then I forgot to bring it on again. So, um, no, let's go into that. I hadn't asked that, but that would be a good thing. And tips on how to stay grounded when we're feeling that overwhelm of emotions.
So I kind of look at this as a two-pronged approach. Sort of externally, or like practically, what are some tools and things I can do in the immediate, and then when we are in that space for some healing or personal growth, then looking at doing some deeper inner work and clearing those past patterns um, or subconscious beliefs or the things that activate or trigger us, so that they no longer play a role in creating the big emotion. So in the immediate um, moment, there's so many tools and so many different strategies, but really, I think you know I think the number one is probably the most obvious, is accessing your breath, tuning into your breath and your body, because so much of what is causing that big emotion are our thoughts around it. It's like from the neck up, what's happening in here, and then our judgments around those thoughts, and then our fear around, is it going to last forever, or why all of that's like right up here. So we got to bring it down into our body, drop into our body with our breath, which it's not just a tool to focus on breathing in and out, but it actually is stimulating the vagus nerve, which is sort of your on-off switch, um, or maybe the body's on-off switch for anxiety and for calm. So it's like you're physiologically allowing your body to calm, slow down, and even putting your hands over your heart, or one on your heart, one on your abdomen. Like, these areas are also shown to have a similar effect. So if I'm feeling like frazzled or ungrounded, that's the first thing I do. Is if I can lay down, I will, because for me that personally is just more comfortable. But you can do it sitting, standing. Is sometimes I'll do this, sometimes I'll do that, and that immediately will help me start to just sort of come back to me and feel that peaceful, tap back into that peaceful sense. And then I'll slowly just sort of pay attention to my breath. No pressure, not trying to make anything happen. Sometimes if you're trying to do deep breathing, that just makes it worse. So I just notice, and I just, listen to my breath, and then slowly get it into that rhythm of my belly expanding and coming back. And that's, soothing the vagus nerve, which soothes our bodies. So that would be a tool that I use and would recommend for
Mm-hmm.
folks.
Yeah,
Along,
there's a lot of different helpful breath work patterns that a
yeah,
person can do, and some don't always work every time.
right,
You might have to try another one. At least I find that with me. And a lot of people seem to be able to ground deeply with 3 deep breaths. And if I'm in fight or flight already, 3 doesn't cut it.
yeah, yeah,
It's like 6 or 9,
yeah.
but at least that's what I find. But and another way that I find, you talked about going outdoors. Trees are absolutely wonderful. They're so full of the wisdom of source, of the divine. They have their own biofield. I mean, I work in biofields. We all have one, and it's like trees have a big biofield. And it's like you can go up to a tree and hold the tree. It works better if you're barefoot or in leather-soled shoes of some kind. And just ask the tree to ground you, and feel that, try to feel that tree energy, or just pause and wait, and be and the tree will bring you to calm.
Mm,
They're meant to heal us,
I
and they
love that.
do. They can.
Yeah,
And
that was my second, was to go out and ground. And I do that talking to my trees and looking up at the trees. So I love that reminder that the trees themselves are that calming force and grounding. So there's literally, like you said, we're talking about the biofield, real benefits to hugging a tree. It's not just this airy fairy hug a tree
Right.
and feel better.
Ab-
There's
Absolutely.
very good reason behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in talking about then boundaries for to help us, we talked about the breath or some other things you can do. What are some boundaries that you feel helpful, or I guess boundaries? It should be a word that's easy to understand, but it's also one of those words that I think gets thrown out. And so you talk about, well, we need boundaries with other people, or we need boundaries, to go in the store. But exactly what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's what
Because
I think often that my understanding that I assume they're talking about what I'm talking about, and perhaps it's not. So, in boundaries, what are you thinking of as boundaries, and can you give us a tip or so on setting those boundaries, or when we might think about setting them?
yeah, well, boundaries come in all different, you know, there's physical boundaries, like give me some space that you're too close, emotional boundaries, um, energetic boundaries, there's even boundaries around technology and social media, like what we are consuming. I mean, it permeates across all fields. It's really just a way to say, like, listening to our needs and what is it that's going to support my needs and take care of what I'm needing. So, an example, um, so like I could set, and if we're talking about boundaries with others, I just want to, something that's often misunderstood. It's not about, boundaries are about what we have within our control and about what we are doing to take care of ourselves. So if I'm setting a boundary with someone, I'm not telling them what to do or telling them what they need to do to make me feel better. Well, in a sense, what I'm saying is, like, this is what I need. And if you continue to doing that, which is unsupportive to me, this is what I'm going to do. So you're tapping into your power and your choice. You know, well, a real example. I need, like, sometimes in the car with my husband and kiddo, like I just need some quiet. So it's like, um, can either I'll put in my what do they call them? Loop earbuds to mute things, or I'll ask for us to change the station to music that is nourishing to my nervous system and not like piercing it, or I'll ask for the volume to be lowered. Um, and thankfully they honor and respect that. If they didn't, I would just have to maybe say, I'm not going to join you on these trips. If if I wanted to, I could say that, like, that's what's within my control. Like, if we can't have some sort of compromise on or trade off with the music level in the car or the talking or whatever, then I can't be joining on these outings. Like, I'll just stay home. Like, I could do that if I wanted to. So you just have to know what you're able to, what's helpful to you and what's not, and what you can speak up for and what you can't, or what's worth it, what isn't. So it's also, you want to know your values, and as well, like, what is it so meaningful to me to go out and be exploring nature that I will sit through 20 minutes of this? Yeah. Because I really value what we're going to be doing after, which is nourishing to my nervous system. And so I don't know if that's just an example.
Sure, sure. And before we end, I'll have to close in a few minutes because I have another appointment coming. But I was wondering, how do you tie your art therapy in with things? Do you have your clients do the art to express things, or what do you like to do for that?
Yeah, I always leave that open-ended and up to the client. And I also let them know that art therapy is for anyone and everyone because we're all inherently creative. So it's not about like making art or good art. It's just tapping into that creative process. So if I feel like it would be beneficial to maybe bring in that process, I'll suggest what I had in mind based on what they might feel comfortable using, whether it's drawing or collage. Um, and it would really just be often it's done like outside of this. I might give a little session, or they might think of what they would, are if are inspired to create outside of the session, and they'll bring it back and we'll talk about how that furthered their understanding or allowed them to explore a thought that they were on. And honestly, I haven't used the art therapy piece in a while, and especially since I no longer have a physical office. So it can be done, over video and all of that. It's just different, and I prefer that the in-person energy or of that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
All righty.
yeah, and I know you need to go, but so I didn't really give an example. But for some, the process in and of itself is just grounding. So I've had a client who just, as we're talking, will be coloring in mandalas, which she loves and are very like grounding for her. For others, it's more about the visual language and what we're maybe garnering from that, and it might open the window or insight that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So there's different ways that it can be utilized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know. I love to sit down when my granddaughter, again, is one activity we enjoy is painting, and I like to sit down and paint my thing when she's painting hers, and it's just to
Yeah.
take something blank and just go with it and do whatever you feel is very nourishing, is very freeing to me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, well, I guess we'll end there for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Erica. And I hope it gives some people some thought of perhaps if you're feeling that you might be an empath or a highly sensitive person, and some hints on how to be aware of that and supporting your own self and knowing what you need and how you can choose different ways to help yourself with that. And again, people, Erica has 11 signs that you might be a highly sensitive person, that the link is below that you can use to get that from her. And it's also on our website. That, so we'll end there for today. Thank you everyone for coming, watching, whenever you're watching. Thank you, Erica, for being my guest today, and interesting conversation that a lot of us have to think about because we are those sensitive people and
Yeah.
empaths. So I'll go in
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Bye
Okay.
bye.